This is going to be about the abdominals, activation, the engagement of them, and also how much tension to have in the abdominals. Is there such thing as too much tension to be holding in your abdominals? And should we be trying to control the amount of tension by consciously holding our muscles contracted or engaged? Or should it be more of a natural process? So we're going to dive deep into that. This is a great illustration of the muscles of the core all the way around. It shows all the layers. We are more focused on the deep core abdominals, on these, primarily these 3 layers of muscles that are underneath your six-pack abs, and we want these to be expanded outward. If there's indentions here, or it's soft, and you get that doughboy effect when you push in with your hands, and it's doughboy, that means these muscles are not engaged here. And so we want them, when they are engaged, they actually expand outward, and the abdominals actually could benefit from a little bit more tension in them in most cases. The deep abdominals, even the six-pack abs. Real quickly, the hip flexors. This is the psoas muscle, and it is attaching directly to the spine. What it does is it comes down and forward, or anterior, towards the front of our body from the spine, and it comes out on the front side of the hip. So it's a hip flexor, meaning it flexes the hip joint. And so if you were to lift your knee up as in a marching movement, that is largely this muscle. And so if it's pulling on the femur, to lift it up on this end of the muscle, it's also pulling on the lumbar spine. And that's normal and healthy, but what we want to make sure of is that we have good stability of the lumbar spine, so it's not yanking on it, creating instability, because that brings the spine out of alignment and also causes friction and problems. So yes, this is a core muscle. I don't consider it one of the abdominal muscles. We're going to be focusing on these 4 muscles here. So this is the most superficial one, the infamous six-pack abs, and then we have the layers underneath, which are more important for creating stability. Six-pack abs is more designed to create movement. So if you were going to do a sit-up or a crunch or a curl forward, getting out of bed, these muscles are working to move your trunk forward. So not so much designed for stability. If you can imagine, there's not a lot of surface area here. It's long and skinny, like a hamstring or other muscles that are designed for movement. If you go to the deeper muscles of the core, you can see they're more broad, more surface area. Their job is to compress, and by creating that compression, like a abdominal corset, they create stability. And that is what protects the spine. So these are the muscles that I love to target, these deeper stability muscles that are designed not to move the body, but to create stability for all day long support of the spine, so that your power muscles, the hip flexors, these are power movement muscles, have a foundation from which to pull and from which to create levers to move the limbs and to operate without compromising bones and joints, the structural makeup of the body. That's a major challenge in itself for most people, is how do I access these muscles? I don't even know what they feel like. So we do learn that in the very first week of the program. We wake these muscles up, let people know that they have them. And so if you do a forceful exhale, you are using all of your abdominal muscles, not just the six-pack abs here, but all the muscles compress your abdomen to help force air out of your lungs. So that's a great way to just discover the activation of these muscles. So assuming that has taken place and we have the ability to activate them, we have control over them, the next step is how much activation, how much engagement should we strive for during our movement? There is an optimal level of tension, and it's not always pedal to the metal, you flexing your abs, and certainly don't want to have no tension in them, because that's how the power leaks out the front of your body, just seriously causes a collapsing of the lumbar spine. So we need to have some level of tension. It's not going to be high intensity all the time. So what is the right amount of tension? Like many things in life, this is going to be a scale, and the right amount of tension is going to be the amount of tension that it takes you to stay connected. So what does that mean? We have some key indicators, like if your rib cage flares you can see that it's flaring or feel that it's flaring, that probably means you're not connected. Your rib cage to pubic bone connection, the abdominals, are not connected. And so it's the amount of tension that you need to stay connected. If I were to let off completely, I lose connection, my rib cage flares a little bit, my back arches a little bit, might even have a little bit of pain. Okay, I reconnect. Okay, rib cage to pubic bone is connected, and that takes somewhere around 10% effort. If I were to stand up and get up out of my seat, it's going to require more tension. And so it will depend on what activity you're doing. And if you're doing more tension than what you need to stay connected, then it's probably too much. One comparison I have, because I have personal experience with it, is rock climbing. So as you're climbing up a rock wall, you're gripping the rock. And if you over grip the rock harder than you need to hang on to the wall, you're wasting energy, and you're going to run out of steam sooner than you would if you only grip the rock as much as you need to safely hold on to the wall. And so that is the right amount of tension to have in your forearm muscles or your hand and finger muscles. And so if we compare that to the core and core balance training, the right amount of tension is that amount of tension which you need to stay connected, but not more than what you need to stay connected. So that's my advice, and it is a scale, and that scale changes depending on what you're doing. So if you're doing a higher level activity, higher intensity activity, you're going to probably need to ramp up your tension in your abdominals to maintain connection during that activity. And so this leads me into a training strategy so that we can be more likely to be accessing these muscles and reduce the risk that we're bypassing them and only training these muscles and the lower back muscles. So the thin, broad muscles are more stability oriented, and they are more typically deeper layers, and they are more triggered by low intensity activities such as standing and sitting and walking. But if, say, I'm going to train my core, I'm going to use a barbell with heavy weight on it, and I'm going to do a deadlift or a squat, and I lift that heavy weight, it's possible that I'm primarily just bypassing these muscles. They may or may not be turned on, and just using my quads and my hamstrings and my back, my superficial, look how thick these muscles are, the back muscles and the abdominals. There's no telling that we are engaging the deep stability muscles. We have to treat the body in layers, just like it really is, and start at the deepest layer. And think of that, the deepest layer, at least here, is low intensity. As we increase the intensity, we go layers out. And so you can think of the intensity rising as an expanding power bubble, basically, where it starts reaching the more superficial power muscles as you turn it up. Please help support us by hitting that like button and help spread the word of core balance training, and that there's a real solution to back pain to other people on YouTube.